wonderful ideas and suggestions for guests and topics.
Great events, programs, and citizen documents.
All the countries are listening.
Welcome to this week's segment of Dialogue Houston. I'm your host, Lawrence Payne. To our regular viewing audience, welcome. To those joining us perhaps for the first time here for HCC's TV Dialogue Houston, we can be found now every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 a.m. and again at 6 p.m. and on Saturday afternoons at 3 p.m. As always, at the top of the show, let me thank you for your thoughtful calls, emails, and text messages concerning previous shows that we've aired here on HCC TV, but particularly your great ideas for guest topics and subjects to be covered on upcoming segments of Dialogue Houston. For after all, this is your community affairs, public affairs show here on HCC TV, now starting proudly its 25th season. We have a great show planned for you today. We're going to look at an aspect in our community that needs to be talked about. That is one that is growing around the country, around the state, around the city. The polarization that is going on nationally, locally, this whole idea of hate and racism and prejudice and discrimination, whether it be toward race, gender, sex, or equality, it has gotten rampant, and it is rampant. You know, we the people still means all the people. We have more in common than we have in differences, but we have to have dialogue and conversation to understand that we have more in common than we have in difference. And Houston has always been on the cutting edge because we are the fourth largest, most diverse city in the United States. Yeah. Those of you who know where I'm headed with that, who followed the show, Dr. Stephen Kleinberg, who will be our guest again shortly here on Dialogue Houston, says, yes, we are the fourth largest, most international diverse city in America. We're also the #1 gated community city in America, and all that goes with that. So for such a time as this, we are blessed in Houston to have leadership who understands to be proactive. In this case, the Houston Endowment, who has funded this wonderful project called Houston Coalition Against Hate, which coincidentally will launch publicly next month in September. And I'm happy and proud to have the coordinator of Houston's Coalition Against Hate, none other than Marjorie Joseph. Welcome, Marjorie.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for having me.
Well, Houston once again couldn't have timed it more perfectly. It's almost like it's a sad situation. I can't even find the right word to describe where we are in this very visceral, outward hate and understanding for each other and toward each other.
Absolutely.
What do you think? I mean,
well, we know that this country is built on systemic oppression.
Yep.
So I feel that what is
built on slavery. So
right, built on slavery.
When you start off that way,
Right. So what we're seeing has always existed, and it's coming to the surface now under the current presidency that we have in this country, and the endowment has taken the initiative to start the Houston Coalition Against Hate.
Yep.
It was formed in 2017. They started to put feelers out into the community, and they found that there was a rise in incidents and crimes of bias and hate. And the different organizations did say that if a coalition of this nature was formed, that they would want to participate and be active.
You know, and hate crimes, we need to look at it quickly from a national perspective. Sudden Poverty Law Center, which tracks all this stuff. In 2017, there were 954 hate groups. In 2016, there were 917. In 2015, there were 892. In 2014, there were 784. The numbers have risen steadily, 23%, mostly among white supranationalist groups. And in Texas, we've been able to track 2018 statistics, 73 hate groups of various kinds, hate against everything and everybody. Various groups and kinds. And Houston, just to bring it home, Houston's hate crimes is interesting. And I have to give credit where credit is due. In April of 1998, Mayor Lee Brown and then Police Chief C.O. Brad Bradford appointed a hate crime coordinator under the Criminal Investigation Division of the Houston Police Department. We now have a hate crime hotline. Those of you who may need that hotline, by the way, is 713-308 8737. But because we've had a hotline, a hate crime hotline, a lot of things get reported now that used to not get reported.
That's right.
And Houston, as you said, the formulation of this is on the rise. 2017, we had 113 hate crimes in Houston.
Absolutely. So right now we have 4 committees as part of the coalition. We have the organizational committee, which is dealing with the structure of the coalition, governance. We just finalized our logo branding, our website. I'm happy to report will go live, soft live August and
Okay.
officially September.
All right.
And then we have a research and response committee that is going to be doing statistical analysis about what is happening in the city of Houston and also comparatives, right, across the nation
Yep.
to see what is going on. So Texas Southern University will be doing phase 1 of that
Wonderful.
research. Phase 2 will be led by University of Houston. And once those results are in, we're expecting them by the end of March, so March 2019, that will inform the direction of the
Okay.
coalition and where we direct our
All right.
resources.
And you said there are 4 active working committees.
Yes, so 4. So I just named
Right,
2.
right.
The other is the prevention committee,
Okay.
which is in charge of education, information, and also incorporating the arts
Oh,
in
yeah, very
terms
important.
of reaching out to
Right.
the community members. And then we have the law enforcement committee.
All right.
So Executive Chief Finner and Sergeant Magnin have been attending our coalition meetings quarterly. Sergeant Magnin has participated most recently in a retreat that we did that was led by the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond. And they have been open to working with us, to engaging with the community members, getting to know the organizations, open to receiving trainings, and open to offering trainings as well.
And we mentioned it is a coalition, so therefore membership is through organizations.
It's through its organizations, institutions, and we do have some community leaders.
Okay, so it is individuals also.
Yes,
Okay.
there are individuals. We
Okay.
have some attorneys. We have some folks who are representing boards.
All right.
Right.
So we're really trying to develop a network.
Yep. Yep.
A network that can also be responsive when things happen.
Absolutely.
On
To
occasions of
address-
violence or hate groups happen.
Yes.
We've had some recent things that we've done through the Interfaith Ministries along with the Coalition of Hate, responding to some mosque incidents, et cetera. But all those things come together because, as you said in the beginning, it is important that everyone who cares about this issue feel that they have support, nurturing, encouragement, allies, partnerships, relationships, so they're not looking at it alone.
That's right. That's right. We are stronger
Yep.
and powerful, unified, and together. So the coalition is not looking to compete with any of these existing
Right.
institutions or organizations. We're here to uplift the good work that is already being done. We're here to provide capacity building. We're here to put uniform systems of response in place. These are some of the goals and strategies that the members have decided to focus on.
And you know, the wonderful retreat that you mentioned this past week, I got to attend a little part of it. It is the understanding of how racism works still in our society today through the institutionalized racism pieces particularly, and how ingrained and entrenched within our society those things are. And because it's always the issue of conscious and non-conscious bias, it is really so pervasive that we don't even understand how it operates in every aspect of our lives.
That, and also how not doing anything,
Yes.
not saying anything, not being proactive, how then we become a part of this and a part of perpetuating.
By our silence.
Yes, by our silence. So we are trying to encourage the power of the voice, the power of action.
Right.
So that people can feel like they do not have to be silent. You know, at the retreat, one of the facilitators gave a multiplication problem and put it out there. And there was silence, there was no response. And we were told, do not use your calculator. And then we realized we
Nobody
were
knows
all,
it. Nobody
well, either you don't know it or you're waiting for someone else to
Right.
figure it out for you.
Because you don't want to be wrong in front of the group.
Right. You don't want to be wrong. You're scared to take
Yeah.
that first step.
Yeah.
or you're just lazy, or you think, someone else is gonna let us know what the answer
Right,
is.
right.
And so that really kind of helped hone in, like, you are the answer.
Yep, yep.
And you cannot remain silent
And you
any
can't wait for
longer.
somebody
And you
else.
can't wait for somebody else to do this.
Well, it seems that, again, we said the timing is everything in most things in life. But the coalition, Houston Coalition Against Hate coming into fruition at this point in time, given the climate, the national climate, et cetera, I won't even talk about that because it is what it is.
Yeah.
One thing about racism and racists coming out and showing their colors, that has always been the case. I don't know why anybody's surprised anymore. It's our reaction
right.
and response to how we handle it, what we do.
Right.
It's not what the racist does or says or doesn't do or say. A racist is going to be a racist. I grew up with the Klan, literally grew up with the Klan every day in East Texas. So I get it, all right? And I actually prefer knowing the true feel. I know you have people harbor those feelings anyway. I'm glad when they come out because that just
You know where you stand.
so I know where you stand. You know how to work with that, or don't work with that, or work around it, or between it, or under it, whatever you got to do. But you're gonna get through it. So the question becomes now, with racism so out there, so just in our face, blatant every day, you can't. People who have tried to deny that racism exists, or that people still harbor those feelings, now have to deal with that socially, economically, politically. They have to deal with it as a religious person. They have to deal with it as a spiritual person.
Right.
They have to now decide, am I going to just stand by the wayside, or am I going to get involved and try to do something?
Right.
That's where the coalition comes.
Yeah.
We give people the tools to be able to
That's
do
right.
what they need to do.
That's right. The tools, the information, structure,
It's a skill set.
systems.
It's a skill set.
It really is.
It's a learn-
Advocacy is a skill set.
Yes.
Yeah, and what did I want to add also to that?
It'll come back to you.
It'll come back.
It's
Yeah.
a perfect timing, by the way. We're going to take a break anyway.
Oh, okay.
So see, it always works that way.
Okay.
We're going to take a
I
small
wanted to
pause
take
and break.
that.
We're going to come back and pick up our wonderful conversation with Marjorie Joseph about this wonderful thing called the Houston Coalition Against Hate. Yes, I said the Houston Coalition Against Hate. The timing couldn't be any better for our wonderful community of Houston and Greater Houston to be able to really wrestle with this issue as human beings. I want to get that phrase in there. Not as individuals, not as persons, as human beings. A human being encountering and in dialogue and conversation with another human being to find out what we have in common, what are our hopes and dreams and aspirations for our community, for our children. Those things we have in common more than we think we do not. And the question is, how do we make sure we facilitate that dialogue? We'll be right back.
HCC. So many reasons, so little tuition. Register today at hccs.edu/now.
When I was growing up, my mom was extremely tidy. We were trained to put things back where we got them from. One day, when I walked into my mom's house, I felt like I walked to someone else's house. There was stuff everywhere. And just growing up the way I grew up and to see this transition was very alarming.
When Sean talked to me, it was a wake-up call, and that's when I went to the doctor.
HCC's online college is officially open. This not only means online classes, but also online degrees and certificates. You can now credential up anytime, anywhere. Join the fast-growing number of students getting their full college education from anywhere they use a laptop. HCC currently offers 32 fully online degrees and will offer 71 next year. You no longer have to find a way or time to get to college. HCC brings college to you.
HCC. So many locations. So little tuition. Register today at hccs.edu/now.
If you're with us for the first part of the show, you know we're having a fascinating conversation with my guest, who is Marjorie Joseph, who is the coordinator of a wonderful new thing in Houston called the Houston Coalition Against Hate. I'll say it again, because I know people, when you say hate, people, what? The Houston Coalition Against Hate, which is a project funded by the Houston Endowment. It is a timely piece of this operation that we can look at hate and look at how we form a coalition, a network of all these organizations and individuals who want to be part of it. And in an environment that we're in now, in this very divisive environment, it couldn't come at a better time. Let me just quote from the Houston Chronicle Today editorial Outlook page. These are dazzling times. If someone says or does something racist and you call them on it, then you're the racist. If someone victimizes you and you holler, then you're clinging to victimhood. The actual bigots want to be able to say and do whatever they like, and if some people give them grief for it, those who do the complaining are the ones with the problem. So when did it get to the point where we could not voice our opinion, perspective, and viewpoint, not our own facts, our
Right.
opinion, perspective, and viewpoints, which we're entitled to as human beings, but not our own facts,
Right.
and try to make something better by complaining that it's wrong and that it's bad? When did it get to be that we couldn't do that in America anymore? What happened to the First Amendment?
Right, freedom of speech, right? So they get to, the other side always gets to speak out, right? But when you are victimized, when you are suffering and you speak out, then all of a sudden
You don't care, you
right.
don't love, you don't, and
all
that phrase
all that.
about go back to where you came from, I grew up with that phrase.
Yeah.
So again, everybody says, oh, how horrible, how terrible. No, if you look at history and take the long view of history, and also then have a future-oriented perspective, you understand this is nothing new.
It is
Everybody went,
not.
oh, the sky is falling. Everybody went crazy, the sky is falling. No.
No,
This has been with us.
This has been with
It's just, the veneer got turned over for a minute and it came out from under the rock. It was always there. So the question becomes, with the coalition's work, how do we get to this dialogue about human beings to human beings and helping each other with our lives?
So what I feel is, you hear the phrase, well, we don't want to preach to the choir.
Right.
I beg to differ.
Choir needs preaching too.
And I don't even, and it's preaching, they need information, they need education.
Advocacy. They need to get
advocacy.
moving.
They need to understand why they are so important. I mean, Martin Luther King spoke about
Yes.
those who are silent.
Yes.
Like you said, I rather know if you're in the KKK and if you're not feeling certain things.
Because your point is right on. When we let somebody
see it,
else
I know
control the narrative, because that's all this is. This is just the narrative. The narrative is what? The narrative is a story along the journey. He or she who gets to control the narrative gets to control everything. If you change the narrative, you change the story, you change the outcome.
Absolutely.
We have to get smart enough about how to control the narrative.
Absolutely.
We're letting the narrative be controlled by everyone else.
That's right.
We're letting people who have hate and fear, and I got to be clear about this now. It is hate and fear. It is hate because we have this biases that we all have and grew up with. It's fear with the changing demographics of the uncertainty of my role and place in society going forward.
Right.
I've known what it has been all these years. I've known it was ingrained because of white privilege. I understand what it has been all these years. I don't know what that future looks like. And when I have this unknown about the future, I'm certain I'm fearful.
Oh, yeah.
So when
I
you
mean, we all have
combine
it.
when you combine bias, inherent bias, and you combine fear, you get this visceral reaction that you're having now.
That's right. That's right. And so how we're trying to attack this as a coalition also is through the arts. As I
Right.
mentioned, James Baldwin,
Come
I
on, we
believe,
come together.
has a great
Yeah.
quote where he says, "An artist is a lover, and if I love you, then I must show you
Yes.
where your blind spots
Yeah.
are, where
Yeah.
you may not be seeing things correctly."
Yeah.
And so we are coming through this from a place of love. And we're trying to connect with the community and have different scratch that.
And it's unconditional love.
It's unconditional love. We're trying to offer different events to the community.
Right.
So
Right.
we're having conversations. We're having book authors coming and
Of all
having
kinds.
we're having panels.
Right.
I'm participating on panels.
Right.
So these are the things that we're doing, and we're trying to activate and reach the students, right? The student body,
Right.
so that if you can get the one or two young minds that are on the fence and don't quite understand it,
Yeah.
perhaps an exposure,
Right.
perhaps a connection, a human connection with someone else can be that
Yeah, you
deciding
hit it.
factor for
We're
that
really
person.
on that human connection piece. It is human beings to human beings developing relationships built on mutual trust
That's
and respect.
how.
Developing relationships built on mutual trust and respect, because nothing happens without trust.
That's right.
Nothing happens
Without trust.
So the question of unconditional love has always been there, particularly with young people, because that phrase now today I think is more important even than back then. Don't tell me you love me, just show me you love me.
Amen.
In fact, use words only if necessary. You know,
That's
it's all
right.
about the action and the behaviors.
That's right.
The words, forget the words.
That's right.
And I think that's why we are kind of in where we are now. We thought words could get by with just saying it without doing it. All right, no. It's time now.
can say,
so,
"I'm
so
not
those who are really
Yeah.
want to move the bar forward of we the people,
Yes.
of all of us being in this together, let's go, come join
Action.
us. Action. Because if we don't, the alternatives are not good.
That's right.
We've seen what happens in other countries. When you have this divide, this wedge, this gap, and the gap keeps growing and the divide keeps growing, and it spills over into every aspect of our lives sooner or later. And then it gets so far in the wedge and the divide that pulling it back together takes a lot of work, a miracle. Dr. King said in his lifetime it didn't happen. All right. So the question becomes with the coalition, tell us when and where this wonderful new big
Yes.
event's coming that we can all
Yes.
we can come kick the tires and feel out what's happening.
Feel
right?
the love.
There
So
you go. Feel the love.
On September 27th, in collaboration with the University of Houston, the Graduate College of Social Work, we will be inviting a co-founder, co-founder of the BLM movement, Patrice Cullors. She also wrote a book, When They Call You a Terrorist. So she will be doing a Q&A, possibly performing. We're working on that. She uses performance, live
Okay.
performance to advocate. And we will also have an artist panel that day
All
of
right.
different artists who are making statements through their art to affect different segments of the population.
September 27th.
September 27th, U of H. You can go to HoustonAgainstHate.org and check out our website. We will have all upcoming events available there. We will have resources available to the community. There will be a community calendar so that all the members, their events will be
Right.
showing on that calendar. We will be encouraging people to vote for 2020. If you want to stay connected, you can also provide us your information. And then
Wonderful.
this way we can share updates with you as things are happening.
All right, one more time. It's September 27th, the Day of Perspectives, 2 p.m. at the U of H main campus in the Student Center, in the Student Theater, in the Student
That's
Student
right.
Center. Go to the website. You can get all the information you need. All the activities they have planned for you will be also on the website going forward. And you have to, I don't know how anybody cannot be part of this coalition now, given the environment that we're in. To really learn, grow, understand, get the skill sets you need, understand the pieces of the puzzle you need, understand that yes, we welcome, and we mean this sincerely, we welcome everyone's opinion, perspective, and viewpoints. We want
Absolutely.
as many in the room as we can. You're not entitled to your own facts, though. All right? So we're going to have to come some common ground and some common language. So I want to thank you, Marjorie Joseph, for being with us on this segment of Dialogue Houston. We're going to follow the work of the coalition going forward. Let me end with these thoughts real quick. I think it's time, and we're going to talk about this in the weeks to come here on Dialogue Houston for another event that's happening in September. The time to ask the question, what does equity and equality look like in Houston, Texas in 2019? And how you get there is first being able to answer and ask the hard question. What is the fair and ethical treatment of all human beings? What is the fair and ethical treatment of all human beings? What goes with that are two antecedents. All human beings' lives matter. All human beings are equal. I can't talk about equity and equality until I have a baseline agreement that all human beings' lives matter and all human beings are equal. Because it is an ethical question. It is an ethical question that is rooted in the things that we as human beings have all grown up with. The 5 primary sources of how we understand life: reason, experience, tradition, scripture, power, and authority. So it is time to begin to frame the question. You got to frame it right and reframe it to get it the way it can be asked properly, and ask that question. It's not a difficult question. It's a question that has roots from slavery to now, through the civil rights movement, to racism, to sexism, to all the things that we've talked about, through the glass ceiling, to homophobia, to xenophobia, to name anything. Its basic premise is simple one. What is the fair and ethical treatment of all human beings? That should not be a difficult question for us to answer as human beings, but it has eluded us all these years. We can't even seem to get an agreement, the bare bones agreement on what that may even look like. So equity and equality is not possible because we can't even agree that all human beings. Slavery, 3/5 of a person, not even a full human being. So we follow that legacy to today. So here's what the hope is for Houston. The hope for Houston is that the better angels of our nature take over. That the better angels of our nature take over. A real city is one where every person is encouraged and supported to participate fully, and where every human being and every community is treated with dignity and respect. The ways to sustain it, to empower people, to strengthen our communities, to do the unconditional love, to develop those relationships built on mutual trust and respect, that's what's ahead of us. That's what we have in our future. That's what the horizon has to happen in Houston. You cannot just say you're the 4th largest, most internationally diverse city in America. There's some pieces still have to happen to do that. We got to get out of here for now. We're going to continue this kind of dialogue and along this train of thought in weeks to come here in Dialogue Houston, part of our 25th anniversary. We thank you for being part of this as we go forward. We look forward to you joining us in future segments of Dialogue Houston. And until then, as always, peace, power, and love.